Alright, so we're talking build diversity today, at meta level in particular. You hear a lot of people say that the only builds you find at meta level are dark builds, and if that is true, then we should probably talk about why, and if it's not true, then let's talk about which builds are worth a damn at meta. So we're going to start off with the meme, the dark build. My soul level 133 dark build has all the poise, tears, and damage in the world. It's a damn ridiculous build. So the reason why dark builds are so good is because, first of all, they get crazy AR. Everyone knows it. If you put 30-30 int faith, infuse your weapon dark, you're going to be getting bonkers damage. Now, this only applies to a certain subset of weapons in the game, namely the infusible weapons. So the main reasons to not use a dark build is if you want to use an uninfusable weapon. Because to be entirely honest, there are not very many uninfusable weapons that actually work on a dark build. The Moonlight Greatsword doesn't, most of the boss transposed weapons don't. Even the Crucifix of the Mad King, which does dark damage, is better on a Strength Faith build than it is on a dark build. Overall, if you're using mostly infusible weapons, then a dark build will give you optimal damage for them. But otherwise, you have some better options. Also, a second ago, go back and watch it if you didn't. Forgot to mention this in my Corvian Great Knife video. The second R1 on the Corvian Great Knife one-handed has 0 hit stun. So don't do that R1 ever, basically. It's not worth the damage. Add in the fact that dark builds have access to 2 damage types, not just 1, because Chaos also scales well up to 30-30 in Faith. And all of a sudden you have a build which does crazy damage. Chaos and Dark have equal AR, so no matter which damage type you're using, you're going to have crazy AR. And even if someone resists your damage type, like they're a high faith build or something, you can swap to chaos weapons and all of a sudden you're doing good damage to them as well. It's basically impossible to find a build that has really good defenses against both chaos and dark weapons. The exception would maybe be a Morn's Great Hammer build, but like holy shit, Morn's Great Hammer is atrocious. So just take out a dark straight sword and beat it to death or something, I don't know. So there are the stats, 40, 14, 40, 36, 22, 18, 30, 37. Tiers, the ability to swap to a light roll fashion with a dark straight sword. And yeah, it's a really good build if you want to steal it. But let's say you don't want to be filthy meta-cancer like me. You want to play something a little more interesting, a little more unique. Let's say you want to rock a crystal build. So here are the merits of a crystal build. You don't have to invest 30-30 into int and faith. You can just invest 40 into intelligence, because that's the soft cap for intelligence for the crystal infusion. So I ran 42, 10, 40, 32, 24, 18, and 40, and it was a pretty good build. I've got Gundir's Gauntlets on instead of my usual Thorns, because I have Fire Surge to finish off people with Tears. And it was overall a really nice build. Good damage, shield chip, all that good stuff. Here's the best thing about a crystal build right off the bat. It's the fact that you get to absolutely nuke the shit out of people who wear those shitty mage ears. Crystal infusion does magic damage, obviously, which means that people who are wearing the mage ears, who have abysmal magic defense, they're gonna get just fucking destroyed by this infusion. Now, on the downside, people who are wearing the mage ears have probably leveled intelligence, which also gives them good flat magic defense, which means that you're not going to be doing quite as much damage as you would be to a normal person who hasn't leveled intelligence, but then again, they wear the mage ears, so that their absorptions are going to be nuked anyway. You're still going to do a shit ton of damage to them. I'm not even going to talk about this and show this entire invasion, because it was just me trying to chase down the host while my co-invaders used the stupidest chase down moves ever. Host resummons the mage, which would be a real problem if, again, he wasn't wearing the mage ears and I couldn't 1v1 him, and he gets nuked in literally 15 seconds. Have another loading screen and take those ears off. Contemplate applauding him again, but I'm glad I didn't do that. because he gets resummoned for a third time, and the blue gets summoned, and I die to an R1 Crystal Soul Spear combo. Magic is fair and balanced, y'all. It's fair and balanced. Anyway, that kind of bummed me out, so I decided, okay, what can we do to mitigate that nonsense? And my solution was to put tears on an intelligence build, which is inefficient as all hell. So the stats I went with were 41, 14, 40, 25, 22, 18, 40, 15. 15 faith obviously being for tiers. And you could obviously make that even more efficient just by only having 10 faith and then swapping to the priestess ring at the beginning of every invasion, but that frankly makes me want to die. I had to trade out Gundir's gauntlets for the gauntlets of thorns because, one, I needed a way to finish off people who have just had their tears popped, and since I lost Fire Surge, I no longer have that. And additionally, I just needed to lower my weight some. But the question I started to ask myself upon playing with this build, the question I asked myself was, is there really any advantage to this build over a dark build? Because I obviously, when I swapped to only investing 40 into intelligence instead of 30 into faith, I obviously, you know, made some stat gains. I no longer had to invest 42 points into intelligence and faith from a night start. I could now just invest 31 into intelligence from a night start. And there we go. Tears. Armor of Thorns. Get wrecked. So I've saved 11 points there. I could save 4 points out of attunement because I no longer had tears. But now that I put tears back on, I've lost a whole lot of what I gained by becoming an intelligence build. And the price I've paid for it has been pretty substantial in terms of damage. My crits probably do comparable damage to a dark build's, and definitely less than Chaos does. So the question is, what's the point of playing a crystal build with tears? And kind of the answer I reached was that there really is none. Crystal builds are essentially only good when you don't have tears, and otherwise you may as well just play a dark build just because playing a crystal build with tears is just really, really inefficient. So yeah, crystal builds only if you're not using tears or you want to use the Moonlight Greatsword, which is obviously an uninfusable intelligence weapon. So the next build we're going to try out is a Faith build, Lightning build, 43, 18, 40, 25, 22, 18, 9, 40. This essentially is a way to gain access to the efficiency of a crystal build, but obviously if you want tears as well, you can get that because you don't have to invest 15 into Faith. So all the points you save by only having to invest into 40 Faith instead of 30 on a dark build, you can now use some of those points and put them into attunement. But anyway, here's the big problem with the Faith build, though. Problem number one is that lightning defense, which, you know, obviously a Faith build does a whole lot of lightning damage. Lightning infused weapons, Blessed Lothric Knight Greatsword, all that stuff. Lightning defense scales with endurance, which everyone at meta level has boatloads of, or at least if you don't, then I don't know why you wouldn't. You have 133, 125, 140, 150 stats to invest in your build. I don't know why you wouldn't go to at least 30 endurance on that. So basically, because lightning defense scales with endurance, you're always going to be doing bad damage. You're never going to be doing good damage to anyone. And considering that lightning obviously has less AR than Chaos or Dark does, that damage difference is really, really big. And the second problem with Faith builds at meta level is that there are no good innate Faith uninfusable weapons. Like, what are your options here? Wolnir's? Wolnir's is pretty terrible. I think it's actually better on a quality build, but I don't know because it is just bad. There's nothing like the Moonlight Greatsword even, which would maybe justify an intelligence build. There's nothing like that, so why would you ever use a Faith build when you could use a Dark build? Because all the weapons you're going to be using are infusable anyway, so they'll get better damage on a Dark build, and you'll get access to 2 damage types on a Dark build, and you'll still have access to tears on a Dark build. So what are the only real reasons to ever use a faith build at meta? I would say as a Spear of the Church, that is your best time when you could use a faith build, because obviously that gives you access to the Blessed Lothric Knight Ultra Great Sword, which gives you HP regen, and obviously does very good damage because it's, you know, a blessed weapon with innate lightning damage. But other than that, unfortunately, I don't really think there's much reason to play a faith build at meta, with the possible exception of regen miracles and being a Spear of the Church build. But other than that, yeah, really no reason to use it over a dark build. But let's show some love to the physical infusions. First up is Mr. Strength build. You're going to want to use mostly uninfusable weapons if you're going to be running a strength build at meta. So the stats I went with were 40, 10, 40, 29, 60, 18, 9, 9, 7. And yeah, using stuff like Gundir's Halberd, Leto's Great Hammer, Heavy Claymore will be our bread and butter, maybe a heavy longsword. But for the most part, we're going to be looking to use uninfusable weapons because the infusable ones would be better on dark build. Anyway, let's get into it. What's the best thing about a strength build? It's your ability to parry someone and swap from a heavy longsword to Yorm's Great Machete and just bash their face in. Bonus points if they're a dark buffed crucifix user, someone who's just trying to negate all poise builds, and then you can swap to the Dragon Slayer Great Axe and make a man disconnect right in front of your eyes. The weapon art is just that powerful, it's pretty incredible. Okay, I'll be serious. I'm gonna wrap both strength and dex builds into this one. The only reason to use a strength build or a dex build at meta level is for an uninfusable weapon, like I've said all along, because if it's an infusable weapon, it's going to get better damage and shield chip on a dark build, and you're going to have access to tears and maybe a healing miracle or whatever, because dark builds are essentially quality casters. So, unfortunately, this means that there's basically no reason to use a strength or dex build at meta, because they offer you nothing that is better than what a dark build can provide you. Let's say you want to use a giant fucking hammer. Use a dark spiked mace. Let's say you want to use a great club. Hey, it'll probably do better damage dark, and it will have shield chip. The only weapons which you obviously cannot have on a dark build are the uninfusable ones. And unfortunately, most of the uninfusable weapons on a strength build tend to be like great hammers and shit, so they're just kind of hard to hit people with. I think for the most part the tryhard community has pretty much come around on ultra great swords being quite good, but I don't think the same will ever be true for great hammers. So Smo's hammer, don't know what the point of that is. Leto's is just an L2. Gundir's Halberd is obviously a very good invasion weapon, but it's also just an L2. I'm not saying you can't be successful with this build. I honestly had a lot of fun with this build, but I'm just saying if I was looking to play optimally, I would not be running a strength build in meta, because it's just a dark build without shield chip and worse versions of weapons that I have access to on, you know, a dark build. And frankly, the same thing could be said about a sharp or dex build at 133. So I'm going to skip straight ahead to the physical build that I actually care about, that I think is very good and very worth it at 133, and that is the ye old quality build. The 2016 meta rears its ugly head. There are two real ways you can go about doing it. Option A is after you've hit 40, 40, 40, 40 in vigor, endurance, strength, and dexterity, you can just pump a bunch of points into vitality and use Fire Surge. And then that will allow you to use weapons like the Black Knight Great Axe and Black Knight Ultra Great Sword while wearing heavy armor. Option B is what I do. Instead of putting as many points into Vitality, I put points into Attunement and Faith, and that allows me to use Tears, even though I can no longer use the Black Knight Great Sword and Black Knight Great Axe, as long as I'm using heavy armor. Let's talk about why a quality build is, in my opinion, worth it. The main reason is because a quality build has access to weapons which a dark build does not, uninfusable weapons, which are either more unique or just straight up better than their dark counterparts, namely the Pontiff Knight Curved Sword. The Pontiff Knight Curved Sword is obviously one of, if not the best, duelist weapons in the game. And honestly, the range difference between it and Dark Sim makes all the difference in invasions as far as I'm concerned. One feels like a very easy weapon to invade with, and the other feels like a very hard weapon to invade with. And Pontiff Curved Sword is honestly a good enough weapon that I feel like it's worth having a quality build just for it all on its own. Other good options on a quality build include Gale's Greatsword. It's my other bread and butter weapon. It's my poise weapon on my Tears version of my 133 quality build. It essentially is the best physical greatsword in the game. It has the second longest range of all the greatswords, and obviously has that nasty 3-hit true combo, as well as the lesser-known fully charged R2 true combo. So anyway, it's honestly comparable enough to Dark Claymore, given that it has more range and it has that true combo, that I feel like it is a physical greatsword that is very much worth using. First guy got a point down because he had a terrible name, and the second guy got a point down for being level 802. Other good options include the Black Knight weapons, like I've mentioned. Black Knight Greatsword obviously has that awesome frame trap R2 wake up, and then the Black Knight Great Axe is great for posts. So to sum up, the two builds that are really worth being at meta level if you're trying to play optimally are Dark builds and quality builds. Dark has the shield chip and will be better on infusible weapons, but quality has enough good uninfusable weapons that I feel like it is worth having a quality build at meta, and it is a good build at meta. Anyway, peace.